Welcome to the Stop Dieting podcast, hosted by best-selling, award-winning author and renowned weight loss expert, David Medansky. If you struggle to lose weight or you've lost weight and gained it back, you'll want to listen each week. Each week, you will learn tips for healthy weight loss without going on a diet, without having to follow an exercise program, without counting calories, or having to purchase special meals or products. The Stop Dieting podcast is more than just about healthy and sustainable weight loss. You will also learn how you can have more energy, feel better, get rid of brain fog, and improve your overall health. Stay tuned for another informative and insightful episode. And if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and share this with your friends.
Hi, this is David Medansky. Welcome to the Stop Dieting podcast. I have a very special guest today. It is Reed Davis, and Reed is an expert in functional lab testing and holistic lifestyle medicine. He is the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition and the FDN certification course with over 4,000 graduates in 50 countries. Reed is one of the authors of The Gap: Simple Steps to Reclaim Your Health and Reverse Most Chronic Diseases. Let's welcome Reed Davis.
Hey, thanks much for having me, David. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for making time to be with us, Reed. So can you tell the audience what functional medicine is?
Sure. Well, it's people on a quest for health are leaning towards the kind of medicine that deals at the causal level, works at the causal level, how you're actually functioning versus just labeling a disease and take your pills or surgery, so it's functional medicine is evolving. It hasn't fully arrived, but it's getting closer to underlying causal factors versus, again, just treating symptoms with drugs and that kind of thing.
So if I understand correctly, that means that you treat the underlying issues to reverse the illness as opposed to masking the symptoms with medications.
Yeah, not only that, that's a good point. And but it calls upon the patient to be more involved. It's not just go live any way you want and then doctor will fix you. That's not fair. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the doctor. It's really up to people to take back control of their health. So for people to take control of their health, they're going to want to get some information about how they're functioning inside. We run a lot of lab work, and then we teach people, well, here's where it's going wrong. Here's where the imbalances are. Here's what needs fixing, so to speak. And here's how you can be involved in that process. So they're not just reliant upon drugs and surgery. Yeah. So look, there's a place for drugs and surgery when needed. Go there, get it. But if that's all you know how to do, then you're going to be in trouble.
And how did you get into the health and wellness and functional medicine?
Yeah, funny, because I came from the environmental law and business field, saving the whole planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees. And then I just started thinking around 1999 is when I went to work in a clinic. I switched jobs and I wanted to work with people instead of just, flora and fauna. And so, man, did it turn me around. Once I started working with people instead of just the planet, the world changed. I took a lot of classes, a lot of certification programs, and I worked in this clinic. They let me there see all the patients to do nutrition and run labs to look at underlying causes, underlying conditions, and then teach the people what they could do at home. So people were coming in the office, and that's good. But I was teaching them, here's what you need to do at home that matters. It's what you do at home. Don't, coming in the office is great. You're getting we had different wellness, chiropractic, acupuncture, massage, and nutrition. And it was a real Southern California wellness center, lifestyle medicine, basically. But it was what you did at home that mattered. And so that's kind of what I created over the years, these home-based take care of yourself programs.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. People are always concerned about the planet and the environment, but very few can take care of themselves or worry about what they're polluting with their bodies with by eating the processed foods and the manufactured foods.
Yes, processed food, manufactured food. We put things on our skin. We use stuff to clean our houses. It's a pretty toxic environment, actually. And I'm not a negative person. Just reality is there's over 80,000 chemicals in the environment that we're exposed to almost every day, many of us. And, there's no safety studies been done on most of them. And so we're the safety study. We're the rats in the maze, so to speak, when it comes to these environmental pollutants and toxicants and things. And, that's not even to mention our own body produces toxic waste and it has to be eliminated. So I've spent the last 25 years studying the effects of a toxic environment and what we can do about it, how to get back in control of one's own health.
Yeah. And then you were talking also about why supplements alone don't work. Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, if someone comes to you, you're a health guy, hey, I've got this problem or that problem. What can I take? What can I take? Because we're taught that it's somehow in a jar bottle. And look, I've got all kinds of them on my desk here. I've got at least 10 bottles just right here on my desk. And I take things, but I don't just rely on that. I rely on a diet that works for me, going to bed on time and getting a good night's sleep, hopefully, exercise, reducing stress. All these things are huge. And if you're doing that, then these supplements can supplement. They can substitute for what's missing from food. Food just doesn't have as much nutrition in it as when I was a kid. My grandfathers both grew food, and that's an era gone by. But there's nutrients missing from food. It's just not in the soil anymore. So you can substitute for that. But you can also, if you're weak in a certain area, support that area. Digestion is a huge one. People are popping all kinds of digestive aids. They need to take a deeper look, but it's helpful. You can support certain organs and systems, like your digestive system I mentioned. How about the adrenals? Can you support those? Yes. And then what about stimulating your immune system when you need it? Because these days we need it more than ever. If you're getting on a plane, I recommend you take some zinc and maybe some echinacea or something. There's different things, quercetin, and you can increase your immunity. You can stimulate immunity against some of the pathogens that are out there. So supplements are huge. I love supplements. I don't have my own brand right now, but I know a lot about them, and I've formulated for other people, and they're huge. But alone, they can't equalize a bad lifestyle. Very, very rarely is that ever going to happen. You'd agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, people, most of the time, 75% of the people in the United States are chronically dehydrated because they don't drink enough water. And that has a direct correlation to 72% of the US population being overweight, of which 42% are clinically obese. And what happens a lot of times is people think they're hungry, they're actually thirsty. And our bodies are 60 to 70% water, not soda, diet soda, fruit juices, or milk. And so I'm always amazed at how much soda and diet soda people drink as opposed to drinking water, because that's what our bodies are made out of. And another thing is, as you know, there's a lot of issues with people being constipated. And so they take the laxatives, which are very harsh on the body, as opposed to magnesium, which is a natural laxative. So if they would just, drink more water and increase their magnesium, because a lot of people are deficient in that, that would alleviate a lot of problems. And as you mentioned, supplements are great, except a lot of times they don't provide the fiber you need from a whole food. So it's important to eat the whole, holistic, real foods.
Absolutely. Yeah. Diet pretty much can help resolve a lot of ills. Obviously, eating the right diet, the right amount of protein, fat, carbohydrates. But those micronutrients you mentioned, like magnesium is a great mineral. There's other minerals and electrolytes that have to be in balance, not to mention vitamins and antioxidants and phytonutrients and trace elements. And so the micronutrients are just as important as the macronutrients, protein, fat, and carbs.
Yeah.
Macros, but those micros, you got to have those too.
And when we talk about carbohydrates, we're talking about the complex carbohydrates and not the simple carbohydrates, because a lot of times people get those confused. Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, you want carbohydrate. Pretty much, I think of sugar. I just think of basically these are it's a type of energy your body will burn the sugar part, and it turns, whether it's fructose or sucrose or whatever it is, it will turn into glucose in your body, and you need that. But you need protein, and you need fat also. And so I think people are I just can't believe anyone even drinks soda anymore. Of course, it's very popular now. They put all kinds of stimulants in it too. I've never had an energy drink, what they call the energy drink. I get from water and from really good food, and I do take some supplements, but man, none of it's sugar or carbs, based. So I personally do better on low carb, and if I do eat them, they're complex. So basically vegetables, fruits and vegetables. Not a lot of fruit, because even that's too sweet for me. I can get the blood sugar spikes just from eating a handful of grapes. Much as I love a handful of grapes or blueberries, oh my goodness, you know how good that tastes. And it's okay once in a while, but you got to balance it out with the fat and the protein to be healthy and to have good energy.
Yeah, exactly. I take supplements myself from different, companies and different brands. I always do research to make sure that they're high quality, organic, if possible, sources, non-GMO sources. And I read the ingredients. And if I see that there's chemicals in there as opposed from a whole food source, then I usually don't take it or purchase it. And I think that's important for people to understand that not all supplements are created equal. Some are effective and some are not. And so it's important for people to read the labels and understand what they're actually ingesting into their bodies.
Well, I agree with you completely. And not only that, but people are taking too many sometimes. You can actually over supplement. Some people talk about taking 40, 50, 60 capsules or pills or something per day. And I know there's got to be a reason you're taking it. And probably it's because you're unhealthy. And probably some of that has to do with taking too many supplements. You can overstimulate easily the oxidative system. And so you're already burning up things fast, and you speed that up with too many vitamins and minerals, and you can actually get worse. Sometimes the best thing to do for a person, get off all the stuff and get back to eating right. Just eat the right protein, fat, and carbs, and a good ratio for you. There's a ratio of protein, fat, and carb. We call it the fuel mixture that will give you good energy. And if you just start there, obviously protein, fat, and carbs is real whole food. There's not much out of cans or boxes if you can help it. Just eat real whole food. There's vitamins and minerals in there. Again, not like when we were kids, but then you could just take a few vitamins and a few minerals and a few maybe essential fatty acids with some antioxidants. Very, very, keep the doses low if possible. You can use herbs. There's lots of good adaptogens that would give you a little extra energy or better function here and there, stimulate your immune system a bit, but I don't believe in pounding down handfuls and handfuls, 2-3 times a day supplements.
I agree with you completely. That's a little bit excessive. And again, it comes down to lifestyle and eating habits. A lot of times, we hear these people who are the Hollywood crowd with the Wegovy and Ozempic, taking a drug to reduce weight because it's an appetite suppressant. has negative side effects. And again, if you go off of it, you're going to regain the weight because you haven't changed your eating habits. And what I find interesting is if you just drank pure water, that's a natural appetite suppressant.
Yeah, truly. Like you said, maybe you're not hungry, maybe you're just thirsty. That's a great expression. I'll take that from this conversation. I'll use that. I'll give you credit the first time, David. After that, it's mine.
That's fine.
But it's true. You might just be thirsty, and you can drink some water, good purified water, of course. We don't drink tap water around my house, but that would do you a lot of good. And I think we're on the same page. Remarkable, huh?
Oh yeah. I've identified what I call the 9 golden rules of weight loss, and they're really 9 golden rules of a healthy lifestyle, and the weight loss is a bonus. So I'll go through those real quick with you and then get your thoughts on what you think. The first one is to drink more water, at least 1/2 of your total body weight. So take your body weight, divide it by 2, and that's how many ounces of water you should drink each day at a minimum. Now, if you are outside a lot or do a lot of physical activity or exercising, you need to drink more to replace the water that you're perspiring. The second one is to avoid the highly processed and manufactured foods, which we talked about. Number 3 is to eat the real whole holistic foods. Again, we talked about that. Number 4 is to eat small portions. What a lot of people don't realize is our portion size have been supersized without realizing it. In the 1900s, the average size dinner plate was 9 inches in diameter. Today, it's 12 inches in diameter. And in restaurants, it's 13 to 15 inches. Way too much food. Yet in Europe, except for the UK, a dinner size plate is still 9 inches in diameter. Number 5 is to eat slower because we're all in a hurry. It's fast paced. And a lot of times we do what we call mindless eating, where we're either going through a drive-through, eating fast foods while we're driving, watching TV, working at the computer, and you look down and the food's gone. You don't realize how much you've eaten. Sometimes it could be a whole bag of chips or pretzels. I don't eat that stuff, obviously, or cookies, but other people that do, they don't realize how much they're consuming. Number 6, you touched on it earlier, was to get adequate sleep. Most people need 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep. And research has shown that if you are sleep deprived, you'll consume an extra 500 calories the next day. So that's why sleep is so important.
Crazy.
Number 7, I call it rest to digest. It's an intermittent fast, and most people can do it. It's to stop eating 3 hours before you go to sleep, and then your first meal should be about an hour or 2 after you wake up. So if you go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night and you get 7 to 8 hours of sleep and you wake up at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning and your first meal is 9 or 10, that's at least 12 hours. And what I do when I wake up is to have at least 20 ounces of pure water. And that way I rehydrate and also acts as an appetite suppressant. So I'm not hungry. And number 8 is to think positive, because 80% of our thoughts are negative. So imagine if we turned that around and made it 80% positive. And the last one is to walk each day or do some type of physical activity. And walking, for some reason, is the most underrated physical activity people can do. And that's free. And all you got to do is walk around the block for about 30 minutes. So that's why I explained Rebel Wilson, the actress, lost, 77 pounds in a year simply walking an hour each day. And then they get pushback where people say, well, I don't have an hour to walk each day. Well, Mindy Kaling, another actress, she lost weight because what she would do is when she had a break, instead of going on her 10 or 15 minute, social media or texting friends, she'd go for a 10 or 15 minute walk. Well, if you do that 4 or 5 times throughout the day, you get an hour in at a minimum. So it's simple things that people can do. It's just we choose not to.
Absolutely. Well, I love those, especially anything around the mindset, because I think that's critical. And I'm so happy to hear you mention that, along with the hydration and the diet and the other things. You have to contemplate a little bit. But yeah, that mindset is how I start my day every day, with a positive shift, because you wake up, you're never quite sure when you wake up, whatever you were dreaming about or thinking about. But before, what I try to do, David, is before I put my feet on the floor, I swing my legs over, just like everyone else. You push yourself up with one hand, you swinging. Before you touch them to the ground, you could take just a second and be thankful that you're one of the people who woke up. You know, about 1 million people a night die, I think, or something like that in the world. So you're one of the ones that woke up. You have a chance to do some good in the world, and a positive mental attitude, or you know what I call it really is gratitude.
Yeah.
Thankfulness. That is so important. So I'm tickled that you mentioned that, along with the other dietary and lifestyle habits.
Yeah, it's just little simple things that people can do to change their mindset. Like you said, gratitude is one of the easiest ones to do. I usually begin the day with being grateful for, as you mentioned, just waking up. And so that's very important. I do little affirmations, read them out loud, and I'm sure you do too.
We call it vitamin Z. Vitamin Z is gratitude.
You talk about common isn't the same as normal. Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
Say that again.
Common isn't the same as normal.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So I do a lot of teaching, obviously, and I go through the fact that symptoms are common. It doesn't make them normal. You know, a friend of mine one time said she went to the doctor because she was having some problems. She was about 40 at the time, and she was having some problems with her periods. And the doctor said, "Oh, that's normal. And if you're just going to take these pills, and if they don't work, then we'll just do a hysterectomy." This is at 40.
Wow.
And kept saying, "It's normal, it's normal, it's normal." Well, there's no such thing as a normal hysterectomy. There's common reasons you might get one, or you might even need one. I'm not saying, like, I'm no judge of that, but I could not consider them normal, healthy, daily, normal things. There's no such thing as a normal headache or anything like that. You know, just symptoms are common, but they're not normal. Symptoms are a signal that something's wrong. And so they're usually the last thing to appear too. So you take somebody with cardiovascular disease and they end up with a heart attack. That heart attack could be their first symptom. And they're common, but they're not normal. You know, they're a sign that something's wrong, and probably has been wrong for years, even decades, before you get the heart attack. So, something was wrong. So, yeah, I'm big on symptoms being common but not normal.
I love that. I have another analogy for you, is that for people over the age of 50, 80% are either a type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic. And if you're a pre-diabetic and you don't change your lifestyle and eating habits, within 7 years, you'll be a full-blown type 2 diabetic. Imagine that 80% of people over age 50 are at risk for type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
If they don't already have it. And like you said, type 2 diabetes is not normal. It's common. It's because of our lifestyles and eating habits. Again, it's not normal for us to have type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, or almost anything else. You know, they're just common things. I read that just the other day. I was reading a study on mitochondrial function, but it included some research that 60% of adults in the United States have a chronic illness, and 30% of children and teens have a chronic illness. That's something that's not normal. You know, it might be that makes it common. 60% of adults, well, then those things are common, but they're not normal.
Exactly. What's a good way for the audience to get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
You know, I'm just looking here if we put a URL in my show notes. So typically we just send people to the website, and which is functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com. A lot of times we put a / something in there, but I don't see in my notes that they did that. So just functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com.
Okay, awesome.
Now that's a training program, by the way. You know, I'm not seeing clients anymore because I've been teaching, but you know, I spent 10 years in the office and I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people, David. And I was finally sort of commandeered, encouraged strongly, you need to be teaching. And so I started teaching others, and it turned out to be this certification program. So anyone can learn to run these labs, and they should be in the hands of everybody. David, I want to leave people with the thought that this data that we can get from these functional lab tests, usually you can do them at home, and you can get the data and apply it to your own life. That's my mission in life, is to get people that data that belongs to them. Test results don't belong to your doctor. They belong to you. It's your data, and you can use that data. You can get non-medical interpretations. What does this tell me about me? You don't want to know disease diagnosis and treatment. Take your medicine. You want to know, what does it tell me about how I'm functioning inside, your hormone levels, your immune system, digestion ability, detoxification capacity. These are critical data points that you can get on yourself. And
is it done through blood work then?
Well, it's blood, saliva, urine, stool. We even hair. Not that I have any anymore. Too many hair tests. No, no. It's again, hair, tissue, mineral analysis. The saliva testing, especially for hormones and stress levels and the immune system. Urine testing is very revealing, and some stool testing sometimes, and some blood work, for food sensitivities. Everyone has some, and you can easily get tested and stop guessing, start testing.
But that's interesting, because you talk about testing just about everything with the body, from fluids with the saliva, samples. My experience with most medical doctors is they just do a blood, draw blood, run some tests on the blood, and here you go. And they just look for basic stuff like cholesterol, your vitamin D levels, and your sugar levels, A1C levels. So this is more comprehensive and more detailed as to what's going on with your body.
Yeah, because it's not disease yet. So doctors are looking for disease because that's their backyard. And it's good if they, you don't want to not do that, but hopefully before you're diseased, you can catch it in that sort of pre-disease state. That requires a little more thorough investigation, like you said. So there are indicators, and actually we call it healing opportunities. There's stuff that can be fixed way before it becomes a disease.
One of those would be the thyroid.
Thyroid's a good example. So is digestion. So is your immune system. So is the detoxification systems. Liver congestion, for instance, can be sorted out way before it becomes, some weird liver disease.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait till then.
But essentially, like I said, you're testing hormones and thyroid and everything else, and most doctors aren't even looking at that. They're just looking at, basic stuff. Like you said, the disease stuff.
Yeah, and that's good. You want to rule out, major things. They can look for cancer markers, and depending on what your complaints are. But if your complaints are pretty vague and nothing shows up on your blood test, what do you get told? Everything looks normal. Yeah. But yet you don't feel normal. So, what's that all about? That's the world of functional lab testing. Is when the doctor's kind of ruled out major disease, everything looks normal, but you don't feel normal. You feel like crap. There's something wrong that it can be sorted out. I spent 25 years sorting that out.
Yeah. I have a question about protein, because you were talking about the protein and
Sure.
There's different sources of protein. What's your opinion about animal-based protein versus plant-based protein?
Well, I thrive on it. My wife and I went out to dinner last night, and I said, I haven't had a steak in so long. I feel crappy. I mean, for I think 2 weeks since I had my last steak. So I had a nice big steak dinner. No one makes them as good as me, by the way. But we were out and I had a steak, and I just feel great. Fantastic. My genetics can handle the meat. Some people's not so much. But so everyone's different. But yeah, I'm a big protein guy, and I get some of the richest, best protein comes from some animal.
I agree with you. I eat beef, I eat fish, chicken, not so much chicken, because what they've done, I looked at the sizes of a chicken back in the 1940s compared to today, and a chicken today is 4 times the size of what it was back in the 1940s. So
it's gross.
I tell people it's not so much the food we're eating, it's what they've done to the food that we're eating.
Yeah, exactly. You used to be able to eat 2 chickens. Now you can maybe half a chicken. But I don't eat chicken much either. I'm more of a beef and fish guy. We had bison last night. Actually, my wife did. I had a steak, but she had the bison burger at a place, and it's delicious. And there's all kinds of meats that were designed perfectly to eat.
And again, like you said, it's healthy for us. And it's interesting because I was talking to 2 different. They were vegans and actually had to start going back and eating beef because their bodies required it. They couldn't figure out why they thought they were eating healthy when they were having symptoms. And it turned out, like you said, we're all different. We're all unique. They needed to eat beef as well. So it's interesting because I'm not an advocate of one size fits all. And I'm sure you're not either.
Absolutely. We're all different. And it's hard to sort out what your ancestral diet would have been. If you go back 500 generations, that's probably a good diet for you, that amount of protein, fat, and carb. But how do you do that when your grandfather's half Irish and half German, but on the other side it's half whatever Swahili and some we're so mixed up, so it's hard to go back. So there has to be other criteria besides ancestry. Ancestry is important in health, but it's not the most important thing. It's where did it leave you? Where did all of that leave you in terms of oxidative rate? Are you fast, slow, or somewhere in the middle? Because that will dictate how much protein and fat you need. How fat? Because we burn fuel. It's called oxidization, basically. So we're fast oxidizers should eat a lot of protein and fat because it'll slow the rate down. Otherwise, you're burning stuff up so quickly. If you just eat carbs, you're going to burn it up. To get energy, you're going to have to eat more. It's going to raise your blood sugar, and you're going to end up in trouble sooner or later.
That's interesting because a lot of times when I talk to people who are vegan or vegetarians and they give me a pushback saying that's the way to eat, I bring up the example of Eskimos. Eskimos don't have the opportunity to eat fresh vegetables or fruits because of the environment. So their bodies have adapted. And then it kind of leaves them like, oh, I didn't think of that.
Well, true. And at the same time, there's Eskimos who eat a lot of protein and fat because they're very fast oxidizers, super fast. So if you just give an Eskimo a bunch of fruit salad, they'll never be satisfied. It won't satiate them. They won't have much energy. They'll get depressed, actually, and they do on Western diets. That's a known thing. But there are tribes, let's say, in the mountains of Chile or Peru, where they do eat mostly corn and potatoes because they're slow oxidizers, and they can. That satisfies their appetite and it gives them the energy and things that they need to survive. So, and they feel pretty good. You should be happy. Food's supposed to make you happy.
Yeah.
And I think, I know I'm happy when I eat right, and I'm not happy when I don't eat right.
Exactly. I feel the same way. Well, Reed, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have you as a guest today. I appreciate taking time. And again, one more time, where can people reach out on your website?
Yeah, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com. I couldn't think of a longer name, so I called it that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Reed. And I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks. Hey, good talking to you, David. Pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Stop Dieting podcast. Remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss a single episode to get more healthy eating and lifestyle tips. Motivate and inspire others to be healthy by sharing with your friends.